Dressing in a style that reflects who you are is so important because it makes you feel a lot more confident about yourself when you feel good in your clothes. And people are more receptive to you and what you're saying because they think you're cooler, and it just changes how you carry and how you see yourself, and then also it changes your experience in the world. So this is a video about how to find your personal style. While I'm talking, I'm also going to show you a bunch of outfits from my Pinterest board. These are mostly runway looks that I can't afford right now, but they represent what I would wear in an ideal world where I have money. The first tip in finding your personal style is to use Pinterest. You should find things and you should pin things that you're really into, that get you excited and that you feel really drawn to, even if you can't afford those specific pieces. They give you a really good idea of the type of clothes that you're drawn to and that you maybe want to wear. I think this is a better approach than copying people you know in real life. Then you're limited by the people around you and your geographic location. For example, if you happen to live somewhere where people are known for being very stylish, then your own style won't expand beyond that because you don't have a broader frame of reference. While you may want to dress like your Pinterest board, you probably won't be able to afford everything you see there, but this is just a jumping off point, right? You can take elements of what you see and bring them into your own wardrobe, which leads to my second point, which is to use the clothes that you already have. The more I look at clothes and like how people style clothes, or like people that I think have really good style, the more I realize personal style is more about being creative with how you use your clothes and wearing your clothes creatively and knowing what to do with them. When I was in high school, no one really dressed up. I was really self-conscious about standing out, and so I didn't dress up either. But it's funny because now I look back and I see how much I let like these other people control my life, and I still follow a lot of them on Instagram and they're still wearing skinny jeans in 2024. So I think a lot of the people that I let run my life in high school, they just kind of dress expensive but dripless, like off-duty corporate finance look. It's real Hong Kong core. So again, location matters. I live in London now. It's easier to dress up in London versus when I lived in Hong Kong, and it's because I feel like people are generally more eccentric with how they dress here. But even like in London, for example, it's easier to dress up in like Camden, where everyone is dressed in a very personal way versus any other borough in London. So I do understand that you might feel really limited based on like your circumstances, because obviously you don't want to like isolate yourself from wider society. So for example, I know a girl who's like really fashionable and she dresses really cool in London, but when she's in Hong Kong, she'll like tone it back down, right? You obviously want to be able to dress how you want, but I do understand that obviously sometimes if you live in a place where everyone dresses more conservatively, you will also want to dress a little bit more conservatively. Also, I don't actually feel like I'm that qualified to speak on this topic because I don't actually have very unique style. But the point I'm trying to make with this video is that even though I think I dress in a way that's like very societally acceptable, I think I'm more confident in what I wear now versus what I did before. I can experiment if I really wanted to, and I have the confidence to experiment if I really wanted to. Your personal style doesn't have to be the most unique thing ever. You're allowed to like what other people like. That's totally fine. The key here is that you should be wearing those things because you also like them and not because everyone else is wearing them. There should be some things that maybe are like very popular now that you also enjoy, and so you would wear some of those things, but then there should also be some things that only you like and that are quite niche or not popular at the moment. I think that's the case unless you do see the truest version of yourself as someone with very eccentric style, in which case, yeah, your personal style would be very out there, be very expressive, right? But like for a lot of people, I feel like that's not really what you desire from your clothes. A lot of people just want their style to be purposeful and reflect who they are, even if it's not the most out there or the most mind-boggling. And again, a lot of the images I'm showing in this video, they're like images of like how I want to dress, how I would dress if I had money. So obviously I'm saying this from a place where I also have wardrobe envy and fashion envy. And I also don't have that many colors from like my clothing items in my wardrobe, even though I have a lot of clothes. Every time I spend money on clothes, I feel like I need to be like versatile and neutral enough for all of my pieces to be able to be used for every outfit, because I don't want to like waste money. But that also means that I'm kind of limited creatively, because it means that I very rarely have colorful, interesting pieces, because I feel like every piece needs to be able to be used in every outfit. I actually dress a lot less interesting than in my head. But once I start making that YouTube money, that big YouTube money, I'll probably step out of my comfort zone more, hopefully. I think even just making like purposeful decisions in the clothes that I wear is a really big step up for me. Growing up, I was one of those kids that really like faded into the background, and I was really quiet and shy. I could go a single day without speaking to anyone in a single class. I think there were people that like never heard my voice in school. I did have like a core group of friends that I was very open to, but like I didn't really speak to anyone else. I think it was really weird because I had this very shy, very obedient persona within the wider school community, but it was like the result of like being really socially anxious and like not wanting to stand out because you're so shy. But that wasn't actually what I identified with as being my personality on the inside. I think the clothes and my appearance only reinforced this, especially from like middle school to high school. I only wore clothes that I thought were like so inconspicuous with like the sole intent of not standing out at all. I remembered in like middle school, I had like a lunchbox that was like a little bit more colorful than a regular lunchbox, and I was so nervous that anyone was gonna like look at it. I had like a water bottle that was like Keith Haring themed, which is like, honestly, looking back, right, as a tween with like a Keith Haring water bottle, that's dope, right? That's cool, that's interesting, that would do numbers on Instagram, right? But I remember being so self-conscious about it because I was like 12 and I was like, oh my god, there are like colorful naked dancing people in my water bottle. Oh, that's so embarrassing, that's so embarrassing, man. But like honestly, no one ever said anything. It's like all in your mind. When I was like a little kid, like a very little kid, when my mom dressed me, I actually dressed really cool, and I have some really good pictures from when I was a little child. My mom has good style, so like when it was like up to her, I dressed well, right? Once I was in middle school and I discovered shame, that's when I started actually looking the worst. It's like weirdly the period of my life where my appearance was the most embarrassing looking back, and it's because I was so embarrassed and I tried to like hide it, and it actually just made it worse. Look at the difference between these outfits of like me as a kid when I look kind of cool versus like these of like me as like an awkward teenager or like an awkward tween. Also at my old high school, there were like two camps of like clothing that you could fit into. The first one would be like how I dress, right? It's like very neutral, t-shirt, shorts, some very generic sneakers, right? That's it. And then the other side, you could be like on the popular crew of kids. So when I was in high school, this was when like Supreme was having its era, right? It was like the big Supreme hype beast type clothing, so they would wear a lot of that, which is just expensive. So you could dress like this, or you could dress I have money. Those are the two types. I think there was like one girl that dressed interesting, so she dressed in a lot of Japanese gothic fashion. She was like the one person that dressed kind of out there, and people made fun of her at school. So like, no was I gonna copy her? Was I gonna like step out of my comfort zone when I like plainly saw that like if you did anything beyond like what other people do, people mock you for it? Of course not, right? I was like a terrified kid. No, I was not gonna dress different, you know what I mean? I was really creative in high school. I think people perceive me as being creative as well because I was like an art kid, right? I like to draw and stuff. So my art was really creative and expressive, and I felt like I could express myself through my art. When it came to how I dressed, that's when I became really self-conscious, and I think it's because your art is like kind of a separate thing from yourself, right? But I feel like when you're really interested in how you look and like your appearance, I was really scared that like people were gonna think I was vain. And I think a lot of that is like due to self-hate. And I was convinced like if I tried to put effort into my appearance, I would be socially isolated because I was like, oh my god, people are gonna think I'm vain, that's so bad. I thought that like if I tried to dress interesting, it would actually be like doubly humiliating because it would imply that I cared about how I looked. I think that fear was reinforced by the really specific culture at my school, which is that it was very academic. It was like full of nerds, right? It was like really big on like academic success, which you might think would like take the pressure off of like fitting in. It's true that there was never the pressure of like in a high school movie where like the jocks or like, you know, whatever stereotype, like that's true, but also there were other pressures, right? I was really scared that people were gonna think I was shallow for caring about how I looked, and I was really scared that like liking clothes and fashion or like dressing kind of girlier would make people think I was less serious and like take me less seriously, even though like in the bottomest of my hearts I did really like clothes and I really wanted to experiment with them. I had the idea in my head that people had the idea in their heads that I was very studious. Does that make sense? I thought that if I liked clothes, then people would think I was vain, which would ruin like my academic reputation, you know, my credentials. Oh my god, my street cred would be gone. But now I go to my big law job in my little blouse and flower skirt, so you just end up in the same place. But it's like the teen brain, you know, it's like, oh my god, I can't wear anything girly because what if people think I'm girly? That's so embarrassing. Ugh, the voices. A really good example of this, I think, is like in The Princess Diaries with Anne Hathaway, where like she has her big dramatic movie makeover, right? And then her friend in that movie completely dogs on her and is like, oh my god, I can't believe you do this, you changed, you're so vain. And I saw that movie and I took it and I was like, this is an indication of what would happen in real life if I ever tried to put effort into my experience. And so I never did. And that's why we don't let teens make decisions. But when I got to university, that's when I became more aware of like how to come out of my shell. And I think it also helps that like as you grow older, your peers also get older with you and they're generally more accepting and nice as 20 somethings versus when you're 14 or 15 years old. But it's also actually like really funny because a lot of other people that I follow on Instagram from my old high school, now that they're also young 20 somethings, it's obvious to me at least that they were also suppressing what they wanted to do in high school. So like this big sob story about like not fitting in high school, I'm not trying to paint like an oh woe is me, Crystal's so sad type of thing, right? It's very clear that like everyone in the system of like being a teenager is like succumbing to the same arbitrary social pressure that you like inflict upon yourself in your own mind. But yeah, that's my little spiel about my high school experience. Back to the personal style thing. I think another tip when it comes to personal style is to like work with your features and like your face. So going back to what I said previously about being like insecure about your appearance, I think a way to like find a personal style is to really just work with the features you have instead of trying to emulate what you see on other people who have a different face from you, and so it might look better on them versus on you. For example, I have like a really round face, right? I have a big face. I have a really big head. So I know now that I would not look very good in like a cat eye or like a sultry look. It doesn't really do it with my face. It's not very intimidating. I also have like a short torso, but like long legs. So I try to go for things that emphasize your legs because that's the feature that I think stands out. It's about finding what works for you. Another point is to accept that if you're on the right path towards finding your personal style, a lot of people won't like it, but the point isn't to look super inoffensive, right? I think I tend to lean towards quite like a preppy, twee layered style. A lot of people that I know in real life, they really like streetwear. I think I dress very not like streetwear, and I don't think I actually look good in streetwear either. I think that's why I look so awkward in high school as well, because I was really trying to fit in with other people, but I realized I really don't look good like that. My true nature within myself is eccentric grandmother with lots of florals and stuff like that. When I first started to maybe take like teeny tiny steps out of my comfort zone by like wearing a color or a dress, my close friends, so like people that I really trust, they would like tease me a little bit about it. Obviously I know they didn't mean it with like malice, but I think it made me like more self-conscious than I thought I would be, especially because it was already me trying something new. You really need to go into it with the mindset that you're gonna do it for yourself, and you and your friends don't need to look the same, right? Especially if you're in photos together, you don't want to all dress the same because otherwise people can't differentiate you. That's why the Spice Girls all have their little themes. You don't need to all look the same in a group. It doesn't look good that way. You can see these photos of me like initially when I was like trying to dress kind of differently. A lot of the clothes you can see in these pictures are from my mom, and I still wear a lot of my mom's clothes now. I think the only difference is like confidence and then also not standing so awkwardly. So I think that makes the biggest difference, is just to like be able to pose in your clothes, because otherwise if you know how to pose in your clothes, you can make a trash bag look good. You know what I mean? I'm really tempted to go like full tweed, like fully like Zoe Deschanel, Christina Ricci, like new girl vibes. I did a poll on Instagram and I asked people if I should cut my bangs. The overwhelming majority of people were like, yeah, you should cut your bangs. And I really want to do it. The only thing stopping me is that I'm like an actor. I've never been booked in anything, but I have an agent, so I'm an actor. And like if I get my hair cut, I will have to like retake all of my acting headshots, and they're like, do you know how expensive they are? They're like $300, $500 for like the pictures. It's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. I don't have that money, so I can't really get my hair cut. The last time I cut my hair, I let a student cut my hair. I don't know why I let them do this. I knew it was gonna be really bad when before they started the haircut, she came out with like a waiver form. They're like, yeah, the hairdresser's not liable for anything that happens to your hair. I think that should have been my first sign to leave, but I just didn't. So I let a student cut my hair. Don't do that. Obviously, I went to get it fixed, and like the actual hairdresser, the one that's like professionally trained, when she finished fixing my hair, she was like, don't let your friend be a hairdresser. Like, tell her to change careers. Like, don't let her hurt other people. And I was like, that's a little dramatic. It's not that bad. I didn't think it was that bad, but anyway. What was I talking about? I don't even remember. Yeah, bangs. Bangs are high maintenance. That's an ongoing expense. I'm gonna think about it. Comment below if you think I should get bangs. The reason that I really wanted to make this video today was because for the past 2 weeks, I was going fully hysterical because basically a bunch of like moths came in and ruined a bunch of my clothes. This sweater that you see right now has been absolutely savaged by moths. You can't see it down here. I'll put some pictures on the screen. So like this green cardigan and also this yellow vest that was in my family for like years and years and years. I still haven't told my parents that this got ruined. Like, I know that, you know, clothes are just items and like they can get replaced, but I think it was because the sentimental value of these clothes that like my parents passed down to me, and they've been in the family for years and years, and so it was just really upsetting that some moths can come in and just completely wreck them. I got really paranoid about all my clothes. So like all these clothes in the background, if you can see my floor, it's disgusting right now because it's full of clothes, and it's because I've been trying to deep clean my room, but I just have way too many things, and so I don't have the time to do that. But anyway, take good care of your clothes. They matter a lot more than you think, and until they're kind of ruined and savaged by some dirty, disgusting moths, you don't really take for granted, and you should wear your clothes more and you should experiment. Thank you for watching this video. If you'd like to see more, then follow me on Instagram, but I don't really post as much as I used to. And also, if you'd like to buy original art, then check out my coffee page, or if you'd like to send me a tip on coffee, then do that. And if you want to watch any more videos from me, then I think